The recent Census 2023 survey was revealing on many fronts. Among those were revelations that overall trust and satisfaction in government and public services had decreased since 2019-2020. Stats SA surveyed people 16 and older to gauge how the public perceives government institutions. It found a decline in trust in 10 of the institutions over the last 4 years. Satisfaction with government services of 9 out of 12 institutions also declined. This formed part of the Governance, Public Safety and Justice Survey section in the Census. Let's talk now to Solly Molayi, who's the Stats SA Chief Director for Social Statistics. Good evening to you, Solly, and welcome to the program. This is a really interesting body of findings, and I think the most logical place to start is here. One of our viewers was questioning the methodology used in conducting a survey such as this. So just give us a really easy to understand insight into your process.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the viewers. Maybe let me start by, I understand that South Africans are aware that we have released census, but the results are actually coming from a survey called Governance Public Safety Survey. We are doing what we call it a household-based survey. We go to the household, we ask South Africans whether they have used the 12 public service, the public government services, and they are given a reference period which is between April last year up until March this year. So the data that we're having, we're comparing it with pre-COVID numbers. So in terms of the methodology, I don't want to go into details in terms of methodology, but what we do a clustering sample, which we make sure that the sample that is coming from our survey, it represents the whole nation.
So again, let's go then, and thanks for that, quite simply and succinctly put, quite a widespread of findings that some, services or institutions are more highly used, like public transport, others less so, like home affairs. What's interesting, and just tell us whether this is only a focus on quantitative, on being a quantitative survey, and not necessarily a qualitative survey. So I guess we don't know what is driving that behavior, do we?
Okay, yeah. Quite correct. This is the quantitative, so we have the numbers. We don't have the why part, but from the survey itself, what we are seeing is that when you compare with the pre-COVID numbers, most of the public service, government services, they've dropped. The one that we are seeing a big jump or a big drop is the public transport service, which was sitting at 43.4% in 19 and 20. Now in 22-23, we are sitting around 37.5%. So let me also put a context into this, because when you look at the proportions, there is a drop. But when you look at the actual numbers, you're looking for example, if you look at the public transport, we're still sitting around 16 million 16-year-old South Africans who are still using it compared to the 17 million. So there's still a lot of South Africans who are still relying in most of these government public services.
So just a question again, and it's driven by curiosity, Solly, who's the survey for? Because if it doesn't tell us the why part, those who are, some of them obviously are in the public domain. We know that there's corruption. There could even be a breakdown in certain services. But this, perhaps, people would say there was an opportunity to ask the why part. So at least we would know how to intervene, or at least government would know how to intervene in a more specific way. Okay.
So in the survey itself, we're asking whether have you used it, but we also asked whether how satisfied are you with the services. So when you look at the level of satisfaction, it's still sitting high, although there's also a drop in the level of satisfaction. So the lowest that we're seeing in the public, we're seeing it in the public housing services, which is sitting around 61% compared to 73% in pre-COVID-19. So there is a 11.4% point drop for public housing services. We're referring to RDP houses. So we also have the reasons why the level of satisfaction are dropping. So we have asked South Africans to give us these reasons so that we can actually, to your point, we can actually help the officials, give them the reasons and the insight in terms of why. For example, when you look at public clinics, one of the main reasons why the level of satisfaction have dropped is the long waiting time. And if you look at also with public hospitals, it's also sitting around 31% of South Africans who said the reason why I'm not satisfied with the services is because of the long waiting time. Similarly, with the public transport, if you look at the reasons why, it's the route drivers. So it's sitting around 23% who said they are not satisfied, and that's the reason that they've mentioned. So we do have reasons, and the reasons they vary depending on the public service that South Africans are using.
Let's go to places then where people were satisfied with government or public services. Who are the top performers then?
So the top performance, you still see your public hospitals, as much as there's a drop. So your public hospital, your public schools, your public clinics, they are still sitting at a high proportion. And also SABS also. I must also mention that it's also among the top 5. So SABS also have also been doing quite well. And we're also seeing that public hospitals and public clinics in Gauteng also, that's where you're seeing a lot of South Africans in Gauteng, they're saying they are actually satisfied with some of the services that are getting from the public school and public. However, when you look at it in terms of the metro and non-metro, we're seeing a different picture. In the non-metro, there's still a challenge in terms of the level of satisfaction. They are hovering around 40% when you look at it across all the government services. So the South Africans who are sitting or who are residing in the non-metros, they are still having a low level of satisfaction in terms of the services that are getting from government.
Yeah, very interesting results that you're sharing with us tonight, Solly. Those are the fruits of the Governance, Public Safety and Justice Survey, which forms part of the Stats SA National Census Survey. And that was Solly Molayi, who is Stats SA's Chief Director for Social Statistics. Again, a lot of numbers here, areas where government certainly can, in a sense, get a report card of the delivery of its services in terms of the way its citizens, people who these services are meant to serve, are interacting with it. So it's a pre-election year again. Hopefully these come up as big topics going into the next year.